Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of IKNHL Daily Talk. And yes, I am here today, guys. Sorry I couldn't make yesterday's video. I unfortunately had a lot of driving to do and I didn't get home until almost 2 in the morning last night. So I'm sorry for folks but Kyle did post that video. You guys can go check it out. But unfortunately, there was no Spotify episode, as you guys, you probably can tell. Maybe Kyle has said it yesterday on yesterday's episode. So go take a look at that. We have a few we have no news, but we're going to be talking a lot about the games and the Olympics has concluded. It is past February 22nd, so of course they concluded. But we're going to look over the scores of all the games. Kyle will scroll down real quick of all the scores real quick. Before I do that, Kyle scrolls down, let me introduce Kyle, my other host. I'm sorry, I'm getting too ahead of myself. But Kyle, say what's up to the fam.
Loki, I'm actually like chilling, Iacob. You just want to talk this entire episode and let me just sit here and just watch. I'm not gonna complain, bro. But
I might do that. I might do that. I might just let you just do all the talking since you did all the talking yesterday, and I'll just give you cues on where to scroll if you're cool with that.
well, I'll just add like anything that you miss. I'll add my opinion on. I think that's what we'll do because I mean, obviously, I
Ah,
have like especially regarding the Canada game today, which oh, we got stuff
yeah,
to say about it. But yeah,
yeah.
I definitely want to talk about the game a little bit and yeah, I think aside from that, like, and then I want to quickly summarize the tournament leaders as well, because I think we can
That's
definitely
fine.
do that together. But yeah, I'll let you take a Jakob. And on that note, Jakob, I guess we will scroll through the schedule. And I mean, if you want to, point out anything notable for them this entire tournament, go for it as I scroll down.
I got you. But yeah, no, there was definitely some very good games on this schedule. This Olympics, like always, they don't disappoint. You see a bunch of high scoring game. The highest scoring game, I think, was a 11-0 Finland win over Italy. The second highest was probably that Canada over France, just underneath it. But other than that, there were some pretty good games, some pretty close games. And then, you go to the semifinals and the brutal final the brutal final. And yeah, that's where, I have some stuff to say. I have a few funny jokes that, I think the fans will be entertained. I think Kyle will be entertained too. But yeah, the Olympics, they never disappoint. They're always a time, and where people get together and they watch this Olympics. And the Olympics is, although me personally, this is the first Olympics in a while that I have not watched a lot of it because unfortunately I don't have a lot of cable, so I cannot watch all the Olympics, but I did watch a little bit of men's curling. I did watch ice hockey, and I did watch a little bit of the mixed curling. But other than that, no skiing, no snowboarding, none of that. I wish no speed skating, no nothing. I wish I could, but obviously, with how school is and all that, I just did not have time, or nor did I have I guess we could really just say I did not have the time to, turn them on. I guess I had enough time to turn on the hockey games, probably because it was important to me to watch all these games. But yeah, no, I wasn't. Fortunately, I just don't pay for cable because I think to here in the U.S. is very expensive, and in order to get the premium bundle, you have to pay a lot of money, which to be honest, we just don't have. So, I use Stream East, but as of late, I haven't been watching. I did turn on the Canada game today, which I will briefly describe how the watch party was at, where I watched it, which I won't don't want to spoil too much for you guys because I think Kyle would want to know how I spent my morning watching Canada versus the US. But uh yeah, besides that, I guess we can quickly go over the I guess do you want to go over the game real quick, or do you want to go over the stats real quick and leave the game for the end?
I think because the stats are kind of correlated like with the game, because obviously players scored today and whatnot. I do think we should go over the game first, and we can go over like tournament MVP, stat leaders. Which, by the way, we did already post a tournament MVP on our Instagram, which I actually don't think we reference our Instagram enough on the show. As I guess like someone reached out to Jakob and said that he didn't know we had an Instagram.
Yeah, that which he will get a brief shout out at the end of the episode. I did ask him like a few NHL questions that I can shout him out and say all his favorite team, his favorite player, and if he has any questions to ask us that we want to ask each other on the air that he wants us to find out the answer for. So you guys will be getting that shortly. We will probably either do it in a video or maybe in tomorrow's podcast episode. I will be on back on campus. So tomorrow looks like it might just be a Spotify, but obviously, I want to wait until maybe we do a video before I shout out people because I want people to look, I want people to see my face and see that, we're doing this for fun. We're doing this for real. Like, we love shouting out people, we love people's support, we love people's motivation. And yeah, I guess I don't know about Kyle, but I could definitely use the motivation after this game we're about to recap. I think I lost plenty of motivation. And I'm just gonna say this now because it's brutal for me, but it's not brutal for Kyle because he lives in Canada, so maybe it might not be so brutal for him. But me, I live in the States, as many of you maybe you guys don't know, but I live in Florida, and there's a lot of American fans here, and me and my little brother David are probably the only Canadian fans at my work. So, every time we mention we're Canadians, there's always some, hatred going on towards us. There's always some, joking around, mocking, making fun of. But obviously, it sucks being in a American environment as a Canadian fan, but like I said before, and I'll say it again, I'm not afraid to, stand up for my country no matter where I am. Yes, I could be in the States in a rival country, but at the end of the day, I will always be Canadian. Yes, I did threaten my brother to break his Canadian passport as he is an American fan, and in my opinion, I don't think I accept him as being a Canadian anymore. So might make the executive decision to cancel his Canadian passport and give him an American passport and let him deal with it, because in my opinion, he is no longer he is no longer a welcome back to Canada if he has. Ever since we moved here, he has changed to Americans. And possibly a lot of the reason why he changed was due to friends' influence. He was influenced by a lot of friends, a lot of people. A lot of his hockey teammates are American, and they are American fans. So maybe that was the reason. But obviously, my best friend and my brother Kyle is a Canadian fan. Yes, I know that too. Help me too, please. But no, Kyle is my my closest friend. I talk to him every day, and although maybe me and Kyle don't talk as much as we'd love to. Like before this episode, like I mentioned, me and Kyle haven't talked much, but I think Kyle is definitely one of the reasons why I kept my loyalty to the Canadians. There's also plenty of other reasons, but to me, Canada was always my home. It treated me nicely. I lived in Canada for 14 years of my life. I moved in COVID in 2021 because I had there was some situation going on, and my family thought it was best to move us out of there to so that we don't, I guess, struggle or something. It's not really a struggle. It's more of like we just wanted a new experience and wanted a better life for all of us. And I feel like Canada did give us a better life, but during COVID, let's be honest, it wasn't really a good life for some people. So we experienced something new, and although yes, I miss Canada a bunch, I do have plans. We do have a family plan trip to possibly come down for spring break next year in March and go skiing and all that, so I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, obviously enough bickering talking about family plans and all that. No, I think, like I mentioned, I think being around Canadian friends and still having the Canadian supporters like Kyle, the guy who we're gonna shout out later, uh, Scott and Sean, they've been good friends of. Well, I just became friends with. Well, me and Scott, we played soccer together, so I could consider him one of my friends. But ever since like we got to hang out, and I feel like we got closer and stuff. We became really good friends, and obviously there's a lot of people like Sean. Sean's a good friend too. I think at that one time we went jet skiing together. I think that was really fun. I think, Kyle pushing me and Sean off the edge because he wanted to get the middle seat. I think that was really fun. But no, I think ever since, being in Canada and getting that, Canadian nature, I think, Canada will always be my heart. And I do have the flag, but,
Show it
I
off,
will
Jacob.
probably,
Come on, show it
I will.
off.
Of course I will.
You
Of
have
course.
to,
I
bro.
guess
Come on.
I was wearing it as a cape all day today. I was wearing it, I tied it over here to the corners. I tied it around my neck, and I was wearing it to work, in front of all my American fans. And yeah, people, there was people who were telling me to take it off, but I did not care. But yeah, no, I think. I think, this game was very brutal for some of us, and I don't know, Kyle's maybe experiencing some turbulence over there or something because it sounds like he's muffled, but it's okay. No, but this game was really, we'll get to the recap, but I was cheering a lot when Canada scored, and then I had to unfortunately make a pizza and I missed the overtime goal, but I got David's reaction to it, and then I watched the replay, and yeah, I got pissed off too, and yeah, I told myself that was the end of my mental health. So I'll tell that all after we summarize the games. But enough talking. Let's jump into the Canada game and recap the Canada USA Olympic medal, which I think both me and Kyle will summarize this one together. But
Yeah, this.
I'll
Oh,
let Kyle do I'll let
yeah.
Kyle do most of the summarizing because as I said, I only got to catch the Makar, well, the Canada goal. I'm not gonna spoil it. I did get to catch the Canadian goal, but the other two goal, the overtime winner, I got to catch a little bit. I know how it went, but and then the first goal, I saw a little bit of a replay, but I'm gonna let Kyle do all the explaining, and I will, me and Kyle will say our thoughts at the end of the as to how we felt, during all this, and yeah, I have a few funny comments to make about this game. So Kyle, take it away.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, it was a good game, honestly. Like, I mean, obviously we love the Olympics, we love the atmosphere, we love best on best hockey, and unfortunately for us, this game did not go the Canadians' way, as you can tell by the score here, and I will pull it up on the other tab. And yeah, the U.S. obviously, like we said, they scored an overtime winner, and they ended up winning this one 2-1 in OT. And man, yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say. That just like it was such a gut wrenching goal when I saw it go in, and yeah, I mean, like Jakob said, it's like we're Canadian. We love this team. We love the guys. I mean, albeit you got guys like Marshawn Wilson who you don't love when they're on team when you're playing against them, but when they're on your team, like bro, how do I make a heart, Jakob? There we go.
There you go.
Now Wilson had a good
Yeah.
tournament though, and I mean I'm very proud of this Canadian team, but yeah, they ultimately didn't get glory in this one, and yeah, it's not the happiest episode for Jakob and I, and we definitely I mean I honestly didn't really want to make an episode today, but we're staying true to you guys and ourselves, and keeping up with it, and we're not making excuses. Ultimately, we get an episode as out as many days as we physically can. Hence why we're called IK NHL Daily Talk. But
Yeah,
anywho,
that is true. I will be honest with you. I kind of felt bad. Well, besides, what I was doing later, I kind of actually was trying to, I was trying so hard to figure out a way not to make today's episode. That's why we're doing it so late because I eventually, Kyle could be one of the reasons why I had motivation to do it, but I just feel like, I would let the fans down if I didn't make if we they didn't. Yes, and I know I have to accept losing. I'm sorry that me and Kyle are competitive people. We hate when our team loses and it brings our whole mental, our whole emotions and mood down. But this is we got to put all that aside when it comes to the fans. And the fans, some people like our episodes, some people like to listen. And if it has to be, if worst comes to worst, we will film it regardless of regardless win or loss of a team, like we do for Edmonton. We will do it for the Canadians, although with Edmonton, we can bear the losses, because we have a next game. But with Canada, this is, we probably won't be able to see Canada possibly till I don't even know. Hopefully, they allow NHLers at the next Winter Olympics. But besides that, I don't know if they're gonna do a Four Nations anymore. I don't know what's going on.
oh,
So, oh, Kyle,
I
go ahead.
Jakob, they are actually doing a 2028 tournament, and they will do a World Cup of Hockey, which will be best on best hockey. So we will see best on best again in 2028. So only a
Oh,
couple
so
years.
there you
So
have it. I guess so. What? So did we figure out what they're gonna do in 2027?
as far as I'm aware, I don't think they will be doing any best on best hockey. We might see an All Star game for the first time in a few years. We might see something else, but I think the NHL is going to get creative, and I do think we will see the NHL host some sort of event. But yeah, no, I
Um,
mean, I think at this point, Jakob, I think we should get into this recap. And yeah, I mean, any comments you have beyond this, I'll let you say them afterwards because I mean, we
Mhm.
could go on and on, obviously, about what we think about this game and this team as a
But
whole, but yeah,
yeah, no. One last thing I do want to say before, I'm excited that, we're changing how, we're not just doing an all-star game. We're trying to figure out we want because everybody loves to play with their country, so we want to do something that revolves around people playing with their country. And yeah, it's good to see that the NHL is moving away from the all-star game and they're trying to figure out something that, gets the fans hyped and all that. So yeah, I'm gonna let Kyle recap. I think I've said enough. I'll wait till the end of the recap to, say the few comments that I have about, this game and yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, no, you said it best, Jakob. That sigh, honestly, kind of that's the vibe right now. But yeah, ultimately, your goaltenders in this one were Connor Hellebuck and Jordan Binnington, which, like I said on yesterday's episode, that was what I expected to see. And just 6 minutes into the game, no penalties had even been taken at this point. Matt Boldy made a really nice play for the States through the neutral zone, and he kind of just split the D and ended up in alone, and ultimately he shoveled it past Jordan Binnington. And for Canada, that was the only goal we allowed for a long time, but we will get to that shortly. But yeah, this one was assisted by Austin Matthews and Quinn Hughes, and I mean, I don't like to be saying this, but yeah, nice guy goal by Matt Boldy, and I mean, you can't take away from him. It was a beautiful move, and he definitely deserved to score that one. But yeah, then with just a couple or a few minutes left in the first period, Shea Theodore took a penalty for hooking, but ultimately the Canadians, or I guess the Americans, sorry, did not score. But moving into the second period, which actually this is when I turned the game on, Jakob, because I only saw the replay of the Boldy goal because I obviously recorded the episode late last night at and I uploaded it at like almost 4 in the morning, which I had been out with friends and they were drinking and I was the DD and designated driver. So yeah, I missed the first period because unfortunately I passed out and didn't wake up till 7 o'clock. But yeah, we see Jake Gensel at about the halfway point of the second take a penalty for holding, which I thought the Canadians could do something here, but unfortunately they did not. Especially after, not even like 30 seconds in the power play. Charlie McAvoy takes a second, and the Canadians had a 5-on-3 power play. And man, I mean, that was such a good opportunity that we just didn't capitalize on. And I mean, I think I believe this is a stat, and I will check, afterwards. I believe that is, at least for the States, I believe they had a perfect penalty kill on the tournament.
They
But
did. They did.
But yeah, with a minute 44 seconds left on the clock, though, Canada did get their opening goal in the game, and it was Cale Makar, and this one was assisted by Devon Taves, which I do have something to say about another play regarding Devon Taves going into the third period because oh man, Jakob knows what I'm gonna say. He knows the play,
So
but yeah.
you should have let me walk out before because oh my God, I wanted to so what I was doing, I'll tell you guys before Kyle did. I was prepping a bucket of I don't even know what I was prepping. I was prepping a bucket of something, so like one of the toppings. And I turned around. No, I was prepping a bottle. I was prepping a bottle of our garlic parm, and I literally was walked her out, and I saw the Devon Taste, and I saw how he could have scored, but he didn't, and I almost threw it. I almost threw the bottle filled with G parm, not even covered, threw it on the floor because I got so mad, but I had to watch myself. And yeah, I was just, I almost cried. I guess I was like, oh, I almost said it. You see, I caught myself. I caught myself because I let it slip. I did not want to let it slip for you guys because I want to keep this episode PG. But I was so mad, man. Kyle will explain it, but I just really wish I just don't want that. That's gonna be in my memory forever. That little freaking miss is gonna be my memory for a while. So Kyle, go ahead and.
Yeah, well, obviously, like I said regarding the play for Devon Taves, and actually, he was not the only Colorado Avalanche who had a bad miss as well, which Jakob knows the other one too. And I will go over both those, but I believe if I go in order, the first miss was by Devon Taves, where he didn't even miss the net. He shot it where it looked like Connor Hellebuck was beat, but Hellebuck made the most amazing save, and maybe one of the most important saves I've ever seen a goaltender make in my life, where he puts his stick behind his back and the puck deflects off of it and it goes, wide of the like outside of the post, and I'm like, I couldn't believe it when I watched it. And then at about the halfway point of the second, Nathan McKinnon right in front, all alone, with Connor Hellebuck off to the side of the net. He shoots it and he hits it like he doesn't even actually hit the post. He like missed to the outside of the netting and hit the netting just outside of the post. And I think the pressure got to him there. And I think if it wasn't for it being an Olympic game like that, I think he scores that 10 out of 10 times or 99 out of 100 for sure. Because
I wanted to say something. There was a comment that was made that if Devontae just passed the puck into the net, it would have been a goal. But he thought that Hellebuck was gonna put his stick down, so he tried to shoot it up, and yeah, you know what, I just prefer to move on and not talk about it again because I did shed a few tears when that happened, especially after the overtime winner. I did shed a few tears because the commentators right after goals like were talking and they were like, if Devon Tays or Nathan McKinnon shot those goals, it wouldn't have needed overtime. So I shed a few tears, and I actually think I shed a few tears on this flag because I had this, like I said, I had this flag like a cape, and I took it off, and after the game, so I can go put it in my car, and I went outside and I shed a few tears. I was really emotionally upset because. Oh, it's every 4 years that you could watch, the Olympics, and you know, it's just it's the first time since 2010 that the NHL players were allowed to play and the
2014,
Olymp
Jakob.
or 2014, excuse me, and yeah, I did. I was so upset. Visibly, I was so upset, but yeah, I'll go ahead and say what I comment. I know if you guys can go look at my main Instagram page. I put the score after the game and I said, let me find the Instagram for you guys because I want to give you guys the exact Instagram. But I said, and I quote, "It's official. I'm going on a 2 week no service, no internet mental health break to Canada where I feel loved and appreciated." Basically, what I said in this post, if anyone did not understand what I said I'm turning off my phone, I'm turning off internet service, cellular data, Wi-Fi, and I'm going somewhere where no one can find me, and I'm just gonna spend 2 weeks there so I can come back to normal because I don't know about Kyle, but my mental health, I was having a good day, and then also with the amount of sleep that I got last night, my mental health went boom, crashed right to the floor, and I just wasn't the same person after that. But yeah, unfortunately, and then at the end of the Instagram post, I said, please don't text me, don't call me, don't do anything. Because as you would have imagined, due to me being in America, I got a bunch of phone calls and a bunch of text messages. I even got a video of my manager giving me a shirtless video with him swinging his shirt around saying, let's go. And then sending me a picture of Canada when they got their silver medal and they got he said they just look so sad. So, and I did also get a text message from someone who always leaves me on delivered or seen when, and he said USA, USA, and how about the land of the free? So yeah, it was being a Canadian fan in U.S. territory, it was a lot of text messages and a lot of calls. So yeah,
Yeah,
that definitely was a key factor as to why my day just got ruined because I was expecting all those phone calls and text messages, but I'm telling you, I think I got like 100. I think I even got some text messages from my girlfriend. So it was
damn.
just
Well,
ugh. It's
yeah. Let me finish this recap, Jakob, before you say anything else, because I need to like
I
put
don't know.
tape. I need you to put tape over your mouth or something, bro. So you can't talk. Yeah, just
Mhm.
wrap it around your mouth, choke yourself out, or whatever you need to do. But yeah. Anyways, we'll finish this recap, and then obviously we'll be. I mean, me and Jakob will state our final thoughts beyond that and whatnot. And so Sam Bennett with 6.5 minutes left on the 6.5 minutes on the clock. He ends up high sticking. Oh, I can't remember who he's high stick Jack Hughes, because Jack Hughes looked like a freaking Drew Doughty clone with his freaking teeth knocked out and Ah. But anywho, yeah, no. I mean, he definitely like it was definitely a 4 minute penalty because if you knock a guy's teeth out, and there was clearly blood, so I can't deny it. But Sam Bennett, you absolute freaking idiot! Anyways, ultimately the Americans did not score, and Jack Hughes actually took a high sticking penalty of his own against. Oh, I don't remember who it was against, but that's beside the point. It honestly does not matter at this point. But then regulation ends because obviously they killed off our power play as well. But then legitimately, like not even 2 minutes into overtime, which by the way, I think the 3-on-3 format is very dumb because I honestly think that for a game that's this important, I think that the format should be a 5-on-5 continuous overtime. And I mean, I would honestly at that point fair. If we still lost, so be it. But I don't know. I feel like 3-on-3 is just such a toss up, and if it's a tie game like this, it's like I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that the states are worse than Canada, but the Canadians outplayed them for majority of the night, and I ultimately think that they deserve this win. But like I said, Connor Hellebuck stood on his head, and it was what it was. But yeah, Jack Hughes received a beautiful pass from Zach Werenski where he was left right in front of the slot, and he wired it home underneath the glove, like I guess past the block, or I guess it was the glove hand of Bennington. And this was assisted by Zach Werenski and you're joking. Connor Hellebuck had an assist too. Oh brother, oh brother, oh brother. But anywho, we'll move on to the stats, which ultimately, like I said, the shots in this game lopsided in favor of Canada, especially that second period where we pretty much dominated them and they were on their heels that entire period. We outshot them 42-28. And we'll go on to the stats, which yeah, Jakob, you can tell I'm not very happy right now, bro.
Yeah, I wish I could just toss this episode aside and go home and go sleep. So
Well, we'll wrap it up. I don't know. I mean, there's no picks for tomorrow, so I don't. You know what? I mean, we'll summarize the picks from yesterday real quick, but aside from that, yeah, we'll be. I don't know. The outro will be really short. I can tell you that.
guys, just know that I went over 2. That's it.
I also went over too, but yeah, ultimately Jordan Bennington in this game. I mean, he's not the man to blame in this one. He allowed 2 on 28, and he had a 929 save percentage. And I mean, if I look at those numbers, I can't look at that and say that he's the problem here, as I think you can agree, Jakob.
No, Bennington. Let's be honest. Bennington was never the problem. I'm sorry. I know there was a few, questionable comments on Instagram related to Bennington's performance, and maybe he was the reason. But if you look at that play that was left wide open, you can actually blame Nathan McKinnon because he was the one who screwed up and left uh well, Jack Hughes wide open because I don't know what he was trying to do, but he forgot that Jack Hughes was on the other side and he went to go, play the puck. And yeah, unfortunately, it was I guess a very terrible, I don't know if it was a line change, but it was a definitely very, very poor positioning by the Canadians. And in overtime like that, you should not be leaving a guy that wide open, let alone by himself in front of the net. So, I'm sorry to all those fans, but please do not blame Bennington for this. He played fantastic. This isn't Blues Bennington. This is Canadian Bennington.
Oh, brother, I think we lost Mr. Jakob here short for a moment. And on that note, well, he is gone. I will say that on 42
For
shots
pulling up,
against.
those
Oh,
numbers.
oh, you're back,
Yeah, you're
Jakob.
good.
You're back. Nah,
Oh, I think.
you like you went, or I guess you disappeared for a moment. So I was trying to fill the silence. So yeah,
Oh,
no.
apparently the Spotify was saying exactly what I said. So, but yeah, like I said, I'll recap again if Kyle didn't hear me. But, you can't blame Bennington for this.
No.
You look at someone else and you can't blame Bennington. 'Cause this, again, like I said, this isn't Blues Bennington. This is Canadian Bennington. He clutches up. He just, unfortunately, you can't win them all. You can't be a perfect goalie and clutch up every single time. You're going to let one slip. And fortunately, this was the game that, the Canadians, they just, let this one slip from their hands. And yeah,
Yeah, no. I mean, I really don't have much else to say on that note, but yeah. Connor Hellebuck on 42 shots against allowed one goal and had himself a 976, and I mean, he was unreal. Like, As a fan of the Canadians, I have to admit that Connor Hellebuck played arguably one of the greatest games of hockey I've ever seen in my life, and I genuinely think he was the difference maker in this game for the States. If it was any other goaltender in the league, I genuinely think that this is a different outcome, especially with the amount of high danger chances we had. But yeah, there you have it, folks. Your final score in this one was 2-1 for the States, and congrats to the U.S. for winning the gold. And Yako, I don't know if you saw, but when Nathan McKinnon was handed, like, you know how they all get the Olympic mascot plushies, right?
Yes, the congrats. Here's your stuffy. You did good. Here's your stuffy. You lost, but you still get a stuffy. Yeah, we know.
Yeah, Nathan McKinnon looked at it and he looked like it was about to tear it to shreds, and it was actually kind of funny.
You
Like
probably did. Generally speaking, if I got a stuffed animal for losing a very important game, I would go into the locker room and I'd rip it apart, bro.
yeah, but I mean, I honestly I don't know why they hand them out, but hey, I'm sure there's a story behind it, and maybe we'll try to learn that for tomorrow's episode, and so we can let you guys know why they do that. But yeah, well, I guess we'll move on to. You want to move on to the tournament statistics, Jakob, and talk about that?
I just want to clarify things. Like I made my comment with when Canada played Czechia, I'm going to investigate and put a protest to have Connor Hellebuck tested for PEDS again because that man played arguably the best hockey, and I've never seen him play like that in Winnipeg at all this season. So, I'm definitely gonna put in a complaint to have him tested for PEDS because what that was a different Hellebuck than what I've watched him play all of this season with the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the world stage brings out the best in some goaltenders and the worst in others. And for both Hellebuck and Binnington this year, I think it brought the absolute best out of both of them. But yeah, Jakob, instead of talking about PEDs, we will move on to, some statistics. And yes, Jakob, no PEDs for you. Oh, shoot.
I'm definitely.
I scrolled all the way to the
I'm
bottom. My bad. But yeah,
I do have an unfortunate before after Kyle does the player stats, I do have an unfortunate punishment that I got told by my manager at work in case the Canadians lost. So unfortunately, I think I'm about to do it, but unfortunately, this song is going. I swear, I'm going to kill whoever made the song because this song is pissing me off. But unfortunately, I have to play a song for all the American listeners out there. So I will play it after Kyle does the statistics for the game. And yeah, just cover your ears, Kyle, because you're not gonna enjoy it.
oh, brother, we're gonna get copyright striked, aren't we? Oh well, it's okay. We can get copyright striked once, but yeah, your leading point scorer in this tournament, and by the way, tournament MVP Connor McDavid, who had himself an amazing tournament, and that's our captain, captain, oh captain. But yeah, I seen a couple people make a comment online that the captain curse for Connor McDavid's a real thing because he's a captain for the Oilers in the last two finals they lost, and then when he was an assistant last season for the Four Nations, obviously they won, but then with the C on his jersey in the biggest stage, they lost. And I don't want to believe it, and I don't think it's true, but I did see people making that comment. But so yeah, second in tournament scoring, it's Macklin Celebrini, who had himself 5 goals and 5 assists. This kid is unreal, and he will be an incredible player for a very long time. And third in tournament scoring, which is actually Lucas Raymond for the Swedes, which I'm going to be honest, I did not realize he had himself such a great tournament. And yeah, goal, 8 assists for 9 points, and a +4 in 5 games. He was definitely not the problem as to why the Swedes got eliminated. But then, guys like Uri Slavkovsky, who had himself 8 points in this tournament. Martin Necas definitely kept the checks in this tournament. Yoel Armia played maybe the best hockey I've ever seen this guy play in my entire life. Then yeah, Quinn Hughes, Jack Hughes. I'm not surprised they're together. Nathan McKinnon. We all know Timo Meyer had an amazing tournament. Ian Matthews, Draisaitl, and Stutzla. Which Stutzla, honestly, I think outshined Draisaitl even in this tournament. But both were very good. And yeah, you got Sebastian Aho now, Mika Zibanejad, which he had a good tournament as well. Dalibor Dvorsky honestly surprised me and performed very well for the Slovaks. And for Jakob's girlfriend Lucy, I'm sure she'll be very happy about that. And I don't know, maybe he'll become a player for them. But Yeah, Eric Holla, excellent tournament as well. Sid the Kid, unfortunately, couldn't play the you know the semifinal or the final, but he did everything and he wore that maple leaf on his on his sleeve and did all you could ask. Mikko Rantanen, who missed the gold game the other day, had himself a good tournament. Jack Eichel, Arturi Lekkinen, Kale McCarr, Zach Werenski, Matthew Tkachuk, Nick Olesen for the Danish, which he's the only guy from Denmark on here. And for them, he's definitely my MVP. I think you can agree with that one, Jakob.
No, I definitely think I can.
But yeah, then Capo Caco, Pavel Regenda, who, by the way, is looking like maybe a player that we can watch out for both on the international stage for the Slovaks and maybe the NHL with the San Jose Sharks. So I'm sure we'll have an update on him at some point. If he starts slipping, we might talk about him, or if he starts ripping it up again. But Brady Tkachuk, Roman Chervenka, the 40-year-old captain for the Czechs, and finally David Pastrnak, who some people believe was injured in this tournament, but injured or not, it does not matter, and that's what it is. But we will move on to some goaltending statistics now, which obviously your top goaltender, save percentage and goals against, and literally everything but shutouts. Connor Hellebuck with a 956 save percentage, and like Jakob said, maybe we need to check him for PEDs. Actually, I might change my opinion on that one. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, Leonardo Giannoni. I mean, he might be my MVP for the Swiss because he was incredible when he was in the net, and he even outshined Akira Schmid, who is an NHL level goaltender. This guy doesn't even play in the NHL, and he played unreal. Congrats to him, and fortunately his team didn't do better, but he was not the problem. Then we have UC Saros, who had a 940, and man, definitely a different goalie than what we've seen in Nashville, but he was good. But yeah, Jacob Markstrom, Jordan Binnington, Frederick Anderson, Philip Grubauer with a pretty good tournament, and then Damian Clara, which honestly, Jakob, I think we can both agree on this one. He had, albeit the Italians did not win a single game, he was unreal. He made so many
Hmm.
good saves, especially in that first game against Sweden. Oh my gosh, that was
Yeah, no,
unreal.
that is true. That is true.
But yeah, no, he was awesome. Man, like I can go down the list and I mean, pretty much like all of these goalies. I'm even like Antoine Keller, albeit he did still have an 880 or 885, but I'd argue that that's higher than a lot of people probably would have expected for a team as bad as the French. So I think every team had a goalie who performed very well. And should I move on to some team stats, Jakob, or what?
I don't know. I don't think I think the players and the goalies were really just you can actually you can recap the team stats and we can just look at, just a little bit, but obviously, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the team stats. I just really wanted to focus more on the players.
Yeah, I agree. Well, this is scoring efficiency, which is basically the teams with the highest shooting percentage based off their shots. And I'm not going to go over it too hard. So here's the whole list. You guys can take a look at it. Then I'll go over to the power play stats, which I'll just scroll through all these real quick, Jakobs, that people can take a look if they want. But yeah, France, oh brother, yeah, not a good look. But these are the percentages right here. So yeah, feel free to take a look, and then we'll move on to PK, and then honestly, I don't think I don't really care for attendance and all that. I think the PK is good enough. Which yeah, the U.S.'s PK was incredible. Switzerland, amazing. Sweden, wow. Slovakia, I mean, there's a big drop here from the top three, but Canada's PK was a problem. I mean, not really when you consider they only had. Oh my gosh, I lost it. They only had 3 goals against, but they only took 13 penalties. So yeah, not good enough. But anywho, Jakob, I don't think we have anything else to show on the screen, so I'm going to unless you have something else that you want me to pull up, I'm gonna end the stream here.
I have nothing. You can go ahead and end the stream and we can just like spend like 2 minutes. So the way I watched the game today is I texted my manager asking him if I could, watch the game on the computer on the big screen, and he said yes. So we turned it on, and while we were prepping, for the day, I was watching the game, and I was celebrating a really hard when I started clapping and stuff. I even had some. we even so the game was going on during while when we opened. So I think a few customers looked at me like I was crazy every time, we missed that shot, especially that Devin Tays and Nathan McKinnon. Oh my God. I swear I think I dropped down to my knees almost. But no, when when you love hockey that much, it's hard, it's hard to watch your team, lose in that fashion that they did. But, when the Makar goal was scored, I obviously celebrated, I clapped, I, screamed. But, that 5-on-3 really killed me because I feel like, we should have scored. We had a minute and a half to work with. And credits to the US, they had fantastic penalty kill. They were on fire. They were, they were in sync, they had the chemistry. But so I'm sorry for copyright, but unfortunately, I have to play just like a couple seconds of this song for my manager. So unfortunately, it's a punishment that I have to do, and yeah. So you guys take a quick listen. I'm not gonna play too much because I don't want to get copyrighted, but here you guys go. And this bird you cannot change. You know what? Here we go. A little bit back. Hold on. Some as free as bird now. There you guys go. So, Connor, if you're listening to this, there's my punishment. Yeah, unfortunately, as soon as the game ended, they played that song like not even a minute after that. So I was still dealing with Graves, and I went to the back, started screaming. Yeah, it was a rough moment for me. Uh, it was. I don't know. I know that the emotions were high for both me and Kyle, but I don't want to sound like I'm bragging or anything. But like I said, being in a very American, environment as a Canadian fan, and people were disrespecting the Canadian flag. Like one guy I put the Canadian flag down to sit on the chair so I can, prep something that would get me dirty. And unfortunately, he almost sat on it, so I had to pull it out before he could sit on it. And I didn't. I really thought that this was a result that so I could have shown off the flag to him and don't disrespect the flag. But yeah, unfortunately, I might not sleep tonight if I keep ramping about this. So I'm gonna go ahead and unless Kyle wants to share his experience, he can go ahead. Otherwise, I'm ready to end this podcast and throw it out the window.
Man, I mean, I'll do it briefly, and then I'll go and do it a little bit. Like we'll do some like next day kind of feelings about the game and whatnot. And I don't know if me and Jacob are gonna want to do a podcast episode tomorrow, but whether we want to or not, we will still get one out to you guys. But man, like that game, like going into overtime, after killing that like 4 minute power play for the States, I felt really good about our chances. And when I seen Nathan McKinnon get bodied there and then Jack Hughes left wide open, I knew it was over. And like, I'm gonna be honest, when I seen the puck go in, more than even like, getting angry and screaming, I was just shell shocked. Like, all I could do was like stare at the TV screen, and it's like, this was like, it was like almost like an outcome that I hadn't even imagined in my mind. And I mean, obviously, I knew the US could win, but I felt so good about my Canadian team. I made my prediction for a reason. I genuinely thought we were gonna win, and when we didn't, it was just like it felt like my heart, my entire like every organ of my body felt like it twisted sideways or like flipped upside down, and I was like just staring at the screen, and yeah, I couldn't believe it. One good thing though I will say about the U.S.'s celebration is I'm very glad that they brought the Johnny Gaudreau jersey out onto the ice, and Johnny, of course, like Jakob and I are Canadians, but you are still in our hearts because that whole thing was tragic. As Jakob, I think you can agree with that one.
Yeah, no, I have much. That's the only thing I have the respect for the Americans for that and bringing out their kids for a picture. I think that was a very heartfelt moment that
Hmm.
will stay with the kids for a lifetime. They'll be looking back a few years and be like, wow, they won the gold and we took a picture with them when we were young. So, now respect to the and then taking the jersey out for a lap. I think much respect to the Americans. I have to give it to them. Although still upset with the game. I'm very happy that the Americans did that, and I'm very happy that although he's no longer here, I part of him still feels like that he is in that American team, and if he was still alive, he would have been playing at this year's Olympics. So
100%.
this year is I guess I I kind of felt a little like emotional at that play too because a lot of you remember Johnny Goodrow did play in Canada. He played for, the team that me and Kyle do not like as Edmonton fans, but I still like Johnny Hockey. I always call him Johnny Hockey. He was still a phenomenal player, whether he played for Calgary, whether he played for the US, whether he played for,
Columbus.
Columbus. He still was a phenomenal player, and he's gone too soon. Life choices have consequences, and unfortunately, there's still an investigation going on with, the driver and all that, but I just want justice served for the Gaudreau brothers because as much as, I don't like the Americans, nor do I like the Calgary Flames, that news shattered my heart because I loved Johnny. I loved watching him growing up, and yeah, so much respect to the Americans for doing that, and long live Johnny, I guess.
Long live Johnny Gaudreau. And Jakob, I think on that, I think that's a really good note to end this episode off on. At least something a
Uh,
little heartwarming rather than just our, I guess I don't even know what to
our
call it.
pain, our excruciating pain.
Yeah, our excruciating pain and suffering.
Yeah, so well, thank you everyone to listen today. Sorry we were very in a very gloomy mood, a very sad mood. A lot of Canadians are probably in this mood. So, a lot of Canadians probably don't want to do anything. A lot of Canadians probably don't want to go to work tomorrow, but unfortunately, like we said, we're gonna do this regardless of, a win or loss, So thank you to everyone who listened. Oh, by the way, I do want to give a quick brief shout out to my a new subscriber and a new follower that we just got on Instagram. My best friend Laurel, all the way from Calgary, Alberta. We met in Fort McMurray and we've been playing soccer together. He is new here. I asked him a few information, that so we could shout him out like his favorite team and then if he had any questions. But yeah, shout out to Laurel in this one. We appreciate all the support and motivation and we'll keep going no matter what. So yeah, thank you to everyone and thank you, Kyle, for being here. Sorry, I couldn't do it with you yesterday. I felt bad, but worst comes to worst, and one day I'll have to do it myself too, and because Kyle
hmm
will be busy. So it's glad to see that we're on the same page. It's glad to see that one of us will carry carry the show, whether it's together, whether it's alone. So yeah, I appreciate Kyle doing one yesterday. Go check it out, please, before you check out this one. And yeah, with that being said, we'll see you guys. I hope everyone has a great week as today, my Florida time is Monday, but for Kyle and some listeners, it's still Sunday. So I hope everyone has a great week and we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Peace out, everybody.
Peace out.